What happens when the very individual entrusted with a nation's most sensitive military secrets is accused of recklessly exposing them on an unclassified messaging app? This isn't the plot of a political thriller. It's the scene of a high-stakes congressional hearing where United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth finds himself in the crosshairs of Senator Seth Moulton. The allegation is as simple as it is shocking, that the launch time for F-18 fighter jets heading into hostile territory was transmitted over a non-secure channel. The exchange that follows is a brutal masterclass in political confrontation. It's a relentless siege of pointed questions met with a disciplined wall of deflection and evasion. This battle is not merely about a single text message. It's a fundamental clash over the definitions of classification, responsibility, and the ever-present concept of accountability at the highest echelons of power. As we dissect this intense confrontation, we must ask, are we witnessing a necessary and courageous act of legislative oversight designed to uphold national security? Or are we watching a meticulously crafted piece of political theater aimed at public demolition?
Secretary Hegseth, I'd like to clarify a few important details for the record. When you texted the launch time for F-18s going into combat over enemy territory facing anti-aircraft missiles on an unclassified signal chat, did that launch time come from Central Command, yes or no?
I know what you're referring to, and there were no
it's a very simple
targets or
question. Did it come from? It's a very simple question. Did it come from Central Command?
Well, in this committee, no way in which I communicate or what I communicate on a successful strike is something that I would share.
So you can't even identify the combatant command under which this operation occurred?
Well, everybody knows the combatant.
Okay, so everyone knows it's Central Command. So when Central Command sent you this information, did they send it on a classified system or an unclassified system?
Well, as you know, having served yourself, any way that the Secretary of Defense communicates or provides information in and of itself is classified and not to be discussed.
So what was the classification marking of the launch time when it was sent to you? Because DoD regulations require information on classified systems to be marked.
What was the classification mark time?
Yeah, what was the classification marking? Because
again, classifications of any information in an ongoing operation that was successful are not things that would be disclosed in a public forum.
You can very well disclose whether or not it was classified. It's not classified to disclose whether or not it was classified. And in fact, DoD regulations state that any classified information has to be labeled with its classification. Was it classified secret or top secret?
What's not classified is that it was an incredibly successful mission against the Houthis.
Okay, so it was classified. So are you trying to say that the information was unclassified?
I'm not trying to say anything.
Okay, that's what I thought. You're not saying that. So you took classified information from Central Command that had a classification marking on it, because that's what's required by DoD regulations, and you put it on an unclassified system. So we're going to get a report in a few days from the DoD Inspector General. And if the DoD Inspector General finds what is pretty obvious, both to you smiling there in the witness seat and to all of us up here, that the information was, in fact, classified, do you plan to take any accountability for that?
As I pointed out at the time...
you said that accountability is back. Does that not apply to you?
As I said at the time, Congressman, there were no names, targets, locations, units, routes, sources, methods, no classified information.
Okay, so if it comes back that it is classified, will you take accountability or not? You've already admitted that it was classified because everything you get from CENTCOM is classified. You just explained that to me. That's how you justified not answering the question.
Not what I said. I didn't confirm any classification or clarification.
Okay, so if it is
what
confirmed,
I know is that
will you take
everything
accountability?
I share, everything I talk about,
Mr. Secretary, does accountability apply to you or not?
Is classified whether I talk or not.
Does it apply to you or not?
Does what apply to me?
Accountability. You said accountability is back at the Secretary.
And you know what? The Houthis were held accountable for shooting at our ships.
I'm just asking if it applies to you.
Very successfully.
I'm not asking about the Houthis.
The previous administration let our ships get shot at, and nothing was done about it. And thankfully, because of the skill and courage of our troops on the battlefield,
asking about
we actually put them in a place where they called for a ceasefire.
I reclaim my time. I'm just asking if accountability applies to you. It's a very simple question. We use leadership by example.
Of course. Unlike, I serve at the pleasure of the president like everybody else does.
So it only applies to the president, not to you?
I serve at the pleasure.
You talked about the success of the Houthi operation. About how much money did it cost? How much money did you spend on missiles shooting at the Houthis?
Well, you'd have to compare that with what it costs.
I'm just asking how much did it cost?
Divert our shipping lanes around.
I'm told
the
it's
sea.
several $100 million, maybe close to $1 billion. How many U.S.-flagged commercial ships have transited the Red Sea since your so-called successful operation?
Well, thankfully, unlike the previous administration.
The answer
we
is
had
zero.
Military vessels transit.
No, I didn't ask
just
about
this
military
week.
vessels. I
Well, which
asked
would
about
be the
commercial
precursor
vessels.
for
How many
billion in
commercial vessels?
transit,
It's been several
thankfully.
weeks. How many commercial vessels, U.S. flagged, have
Well,
transited the
would
Red
you, Mr. Congressman, put civilian ships
The
through
questions
dam
are not to
before
me,
military
Mr. Secretary,
ships?
they're to you.
We have responsibly put military
The answer
ships
is zero.
through first.
I reclaim my time. How many generals and admirals have you fired?
I don't know the exact number, but
You don't know the number. It's 8. Can you explain why any of them were fired? Like, just explain why was the Army JAG fired? Why did you fire him?
they all serve at the pleasure of the president. And I think
No, I'm just asking you why.
General Kane is a great example.
I'm just
of
asking
a
you
leader
why.
that we
I
need
think you
at
probably
this
learned
time.
at Princeton what why means. Why did you fire him?
They serve at the pleasure of the president, and we
Why
want better
did you
representation
fire
in
him?
each and every of those.
You can't
each and
explain
every
why
one
you
of those
fired any of them?
places.
Senator Seth Moulton's performance in this hearing is a clinical and methodical exercise in prosecutorial questioning, designed less to extract a confession and more to construct an inescapable public narrative of incompetence and evasion against Secretary Pete Hegseth. His strategy can be broken down into 3 distinct pillars: a logical argument that creates a catch-22, a relentlessly controlled demeanor, and an adaptive reaction to every attempt at deflection. The central thesis Moulton aims to establish is not merely that Hegseth committed a security breach, but that he is fundamentally incapable of acknowledging responsibility, thereby making him unfit for his role. The questioning follows a clear, logical funnel. It begins with a highly specific, fact-based inquiry, the transmission of F-18 launch times on an unclassified signal chat. This specificity is crucial. It anchors the entire exchange to a tangible event, making abstract denials difficult. From this concrete point, Moulton expands the argument to the governing principle, Department of Defense regulations that mandate classification markings. By repeatedly asking, what was the classification marking, he forces Hegseth into a corner. If Hegseth admits there was a marking, he concedes the information was classified. If he denies it, he implies a procedural failure from Central Command. His refusal to answer is then framed by Moulton as an admission of guilt. The strategic genius here lies in how Moulton attempts to weaponize Hegseth's own defense. When the Secretary argues that any communication from his office is inherently classified, Moulton seizes on this, stating, "We've already established. You've already admitted that it was classified because everything you get from CENTCOM is classified." This is a classic logical trap, turning the witness's shield into a sword against him. The ultimate goal becomes clear when the questioning pivots. Having established the alleged breach and the subsequent evasion, Moulton broadens his attack to the central theme of accountability. The repetitive, almost rhythmic questioning, "Does accountability apply to you or not?" is designed to highlight Hegseth's unwillingness to give a straight answer. The final pivots to the cost of the Houthi operation and the firing of 8 generals are not random digressions. They are strategic expansions of the central narrative. Moulton uses them to suggest a pattern of failure. Not only is the Secretary careless with secrets, but his military operations are costly with little strategic gain, and his leadership is marked by instability. The objective is to leave the audience with the impression of systemic incompetence. Moulton's demeanor is the engine that drives this strategy. His tone is not one of anger, but of cold, prosecutorial precision. His language is simple, direct, and devoid of ambiguity. Questions are often short, closed-ended, and demand a yes or no answer, a classic technique to prevent witnesses from delivering lengthy, narrative-based deflections. Phrases like, "It's a very simple question and I reclaim my time," are not mere procedural remarks. They are instruments of control. They serve to interrupt Hegseth's attempts to pivot to mission success or the bravery of troops, reminding everyone in the room and the audience watching that Moulton is in command of the exchange. This unwavering, almost stoic aggression creates immense pressure, making Hegseth's evasions appear more pronounced and deliberate. The style projects authority and suggests that the questioner is armed with facts, while the witness is armed only with rhetoric. Perhaps Moulton's most impressive skill on display is his ability to adapt and react. He anticipates Hegseth's deflections and is consistently prepared with a counter. When Hegseth tries to reframe the issue around the incredibly successful mission against the Houthis, Moulton immediately dismisses it. I'm not asking about the Houthis. I'm just asking if it applies to you. He refuses to engage with the substance of the deflection, thereby neutralizing its power. He recognizes that Hegseth's strategy is to shift the context from personal failure to collective success, and he systematically denies him that opportunity. When Hegseth challenges the premise of the questions, Moulton doesn't argue. He simply restates the question or moves to the next phase of his argument, maintaining forward momentum. He demonstrates a keen ability to listen not for the content of the answer, but for the structure of the evasion, which he then uses to build his next question. This adaptability ensures that he, not the witness, controls the narrative flow from start to finish. In conclusion, Senator Moulton's interrogation of Secretary Hegseth was a masterclass in building a case in the court of public opinion. He meticulously constructed a logical framework that left the secretary with no good options, employed a disciplined and controlling demeanor to amplify pressure, and expertly reacted to every evasive maneuver to keep the interrogation on his chosen track. The ultimate goal was not simply to ask questions, but to provide answers through the structure of his questioning. He aimed to prove that whether the information was technically classified or not had become secondary to the larger issue. A Secretary of Defense who, when faced with a direct challenge to his judgment and adherence to protocol, refused to be held accountable. What is your take on this confrontation? Was this a necessary act of oversight by a diligent senator? Or a partisan attack designed for political impact? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses.